Hi, my name is Sally Bowles. I'm going to take you through your adventures into oboe today. We're so excited that you've chosen this instrument to play. It's quite a challenge, but it's a very fun thing to do. I want to start with a couple of things so you know kind of what we've got going on here with things that we need at our disposal to get us started. So I have a music stand. And I have a book that we're going to be using. Alrighty. So over here, if you look, I have the oboe itself. And then I have a reed case, and I have a variety of reed cases, and we're going to talk about all that stuff in just a second. I have reeds. I have a swab for the oboe. I have water to soak my reed in. And I have a pencil, because I'm not perfect, so I'm going to need to mark stuff. Alright, so let's get started on the oboe here. You are in an interesting situation here with the virtual learning, so hopefully this will make it feel a little more at home for you, and when you actually get back to face, then you're going to have all sorts of knowledge about the oboe. So let's start first with producing a sound and how we do that. So just like your voice, nothing is produced, sound is not produced unless you have air behind it. So the air that we use on the oboe needs to be used in a very specific fashion. So we're going to think of our core here, our torso, our core. We're going to think of this as something we need to fill up with air. So when we take a breath in, you want to take a breath in from your core down around your tummy where you can pull air in, and it's going to feel like your tummy pops out, okay, as you pull air down in. You do not want to do this kind of breath where you do the shoulder thing. Okay, so we don't need air up here, we need air down here where the muscle is. So once again, you're going to take a full body breath. Notice my shoulders didn't move at all. It's just my core. All right, so I'm taking that air in. The next thing I have to do is I have to get that air out of me, but it cannot be soft air. It's got to be really, really strong, really powerful directional air. So if I have a dial here, let's say, that has 0 through 10, I want my air speed, the pressure behind my air, to be at least around an 8. If it's softer than that, I'm going to have trouble getting my sound to come out. Okay, the reed, once we get all started into that process, I'm going to need much more powerful air than if my air is, say, like at a 3 or a 4 on a dial. So you're going to be really hissing air out in a very streamlined, very laser-like fashion. So you're going to hiss with your air, and you're going to use your core muscles to press that air back out of your body. So your core muscles do both things. They're going to pull air in, nice full breath, and they're going to hiss it back out. Okay, very powerful. Remember, keep it around an 8 on your dial. When you are sitting in the chair, you just want your feet flat on the floor, and you want to make sure that you are not leaning back in the chair. So whether you're sitting at the very front of the chair, on the very, very edge of the chair, or whether you're in the middle of the chair, or even if you're in the back part of the chair, the main thing is that your back cannot lean back. We don't get to lay down in a chair. We have to sit with a nice straight back. So we're making kind of an L with our body. Okay, we're making an L when we sit nice and straight. Then we're going to pull our air in with our core muscles, and we're going to hiss it back out. So pull it back in, and you're going to hiss it back out. Very powerful air. All right. Okay, so we have just talked about how we sit, how we hold ourselves, how we take a breath in, and how we push the air out. Remember, there's no sound without air, always. Okay, so let me also say this real quick, that in the book, as you're reading through the book, there's a bunch of things that I say that you're going to find them in the book. I am just taking you through the process, what you see in the book. When you are at home, and let's say you need a reference, the book is great. You can read through all the instructions in the book. We are talking about them right now. That is for you for later to use at your own disposal. Okay, so we are going to come to the oboe itself. So your case is going to look something like this case. All right, here's a side view. All right, when you are, here's the bottom, right? or here, or if it's standing on the side, the bottom, sorry. And then when it's laying in our lap, The flat is the bottom. There's a little cushy padded storage place on the top. It's got little zippers right here. So it always, before we take the oboe out of the case, you always want to make sure that this little padded storage place right here is facing up. Otherwise, you're taking the oboe out upside down when you open it, and that's pretty dangerous for the oboe itself. So let me throw this out here real quick before we start taking the oboe out of the case. You must be careful. I cannot stress that enough. Any instrument that you play, you must be careful. You start getting into, just so I cover this for your mom. Mom doesn't want to have to pay for an instrument that you weren't careful with, okay? So mother of 3 sons here, you need to be careful with your stuff. Take ultimate care. Don't let anybody else mess with your instrument. Make sure you're always the one in charge of what you're doing. You know, you're talking about thousands of dollars worth of instrument here, so just be careful. Word to the wise. Okay, so on this little case, there's a Velcro little handle that I'm going to undo. It's got 2 little handles that were in the Velcro. All right. It has another little Velcro here on this. And when I pull that up, you can see there's a zipper underneath that goes all the way around the case. Alrighty. So your case should be something along these lines. If you have an older case where it's the little metal latch things, make sure the latches open up to the top, not down to the bottom. Okay. Make sure they open up to the top. All right. So I'm going to have this flat, and this will be laying in my lap, and I'm going to unzip to the back these little zippers that are holding it closed. All right, now this would be sitting in my lap. I'm holding it so you can see. So when I open this up, we have the oboe inside. Welcome to my world. It's a pretty wonderful place to be, actually, oboe speaking. So when we start our process with this, what you might want to do is take your phone out, and take a picture of the inside of the case. So just in case when you get home and need to put this back in the case, you have a picture to help you make sure you get all your parts and pieces back in the right places, because there are little grooves here where the joints fit in, and you don't want to get the wrong joint in the wrong place, okay? Because then if we happen to close it, we would start bending keys and things, and we certainly don't want to do that. We're back to mom, don't forget. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what you see here. So we're in a nice padded case, nice soft and padding on the top that helps hold the oboe securely into place. Even if you're not this kind of case, you still have a case that's very safe for your instrument. So take a picture so you can see where that is. All right, so what we have here in this outer pocket, you can put things in there like your swab and all that sort of stuff, and we're going to talk about what those are later. Your pencils, your reed case can actually go in there, or it can go in here. So here's what you see when you're looking at the inside of the case. Alrighty, so we have this short little piece here. It's called the bell. That's the bottom of the oboe. Up here towards and most cases follow this, and some of these this is reversed, but the middle joint is this one that has a cork at one end and goes up, and there's keys sticking out at the top. That's your middle joint. Then you have the top joint right here, which has a small top and a cork at the end. All right, so we're going to assemble the oboe from the bottom to the top. So we're going to put the bell to the middle and then the middle to the top. Here we have a reed case, and we'll talk about those in just a second. All right, so some things to be aware of. We have to put the joints together, and what makes the oboe work all the way up and down the oboe are connectors, and they're called bridge keys. So we have a series of bridge keys that we need to make sure that we line up. It's very important. So we have bridge keys. Some are house tops and some are flat. Okay, obviously the house tops are going to fit over the flat. Okay, so the flat bridge key, part of the bridge key, comes up and does a house top itself. So it's flat with a house top. So I take the house top from the other joint and I put them together where my house tops all line up all the way across. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is the one that is on the bell. So here in the center of your bell is your first bridge key. It is a house top if you look at it. It has little little porches out to the side, okay? But it is a housetop. So it goes and lines up. I'm going to take out my middle joint. And if you look right here on the cork end of your middle joint, you'll see there's a flat. It's right in the center, okay? There is a flat, and then it goes into a housetop. I'm going to scoot a little closer to you here for just a second. So you can see, here's my flat. Already goes into a housetop. That's on the middle joint. On this bell, there is the housetop that I was talking about. Okay, so what's going to happen, and if these are hard to put together, all you have to do is put some cork grease on there. Cork grease is a lubricant, and I'll show you some in just a second. It's a lubricant that helps make the joints go together easier, so you don't have to push and shove and push and shove. Now, they might not be hard to put together, but just in case they are, the cork grease is great. And this is what cork grease looks like. So, it looks like a little chapstick tube, for lack of something, a little better description, all right? So when you open this, on the inside is the cork grease, all right? Here's what you would do. Let me show you real quick. You simply take the cork right here, all right? And you put a light little, you don't need a gob of this stuff, all right? You put a light, it's like putting lotion on your hands. All right, put a light little coverage on there. Then I'm going to put I have my bell in my left hand and I have the middle joint in my right hand. So I'm going to take my index finger here and I'm going to press it down on this big key, and then I'm going to close my hand around it. See what I did? So here is this key. What happens is when I press this key down, do you see it makes my bridge key rise? There, you can see it. So I'm making that rise so to make sure my housetop is going to fit over my flat, okay? So once again, I'm putting my finger on the big key. I'm going to close my fist around it. I'm holding this joint where things are flat. I don't want to get my hand on any of the keys like these or these that are sticking out to the side, okay? I don't want to wrap my hand around these like this or this. I'll bend them, okay? And it's okay to put your hand here, but I get a little better grip if I put it on the bottom half of the middle joint. And remember, I have this key, so I have raised my housetop. So I'm going to put it together just a little, and I'm going to show you here. This is where my bridge keys right here, are going to line up. You can see I've got my housetop's going to go over my flat. So I'm going to do slight little twist and push, and I've got my holding my key up so my housetop will go over. And then what you'll see is you will see that my housetops line up. Oh my gosh, looking at this in a camera. Okay, here we go. So here my housetops line up from my bell right here to my middle joint right here. The other thing I'm going to be very careful of is that when I put my joints together right here, they go all the way together. There's not any little space like this. I can't have any space. And once again, if you are having trouble getting it together, use some cork grease and put it on there. Okay, so I have just lined up. What I'm checking at this point is that I have lined up my bridge key right here, and that my joints are going all the way together. There's not any space. Cool. All right, so next we're going to take the top joint, and I'm going to set my case down on the floor right now so I don't do anything silly like dump it all on the floor. Okay, so now we have a different set of bridge keys. We have two, where we had one bridge key here on the bell to line up. We have two from the middle to the top. So they're right here on the sides. You see where my fingers are, right here and here? Now, if you look closely at those, what you see is that they are flats that go to a housetop. So their corresponding lineup partners, all right, are here on the top joint. So here we are, either side. Here's one, and there's one, okay? So these are housetops. So they're going to go over the flat that's on the middle. So once again, if this is hard to put together, I can put cork grease around here because I don't want to shove and push, all right? I start bending things and then we all get in trouble at that point. We're back to mom at that point. All right, so I want to make sure that all my keys are facing in the same direction as in the busy part of the oboe. you can see there's very few keys on the back here, and even less on the back here. There's only a thumb rest back there. So I need to make sure that my keys are all facing in the same direction. And I'm going to put this in straight. And actually mine's a little tight, so I'm back to cork grease. So I'm grabbing cork grease and put a light layer around here. Cool. All right, we're going to do it again. So remember bridge keys, right? So I'm holding it. I've got my bell based against my tummy here. And I've got my keys all facing the same direction, as you can see. I'm going to put this joint straight in. And I'm going to do it just a little bit. And you can see where my bridge keys right there are going to need to line up. Okay, so I've got the house top on the top, the flat to the house top on the middle. So I'm going to face it and push it straight in, small twists and turns. I'm holding it by the top right here, and my hand is wrapped where these joints come together down here. And I'm basing against my tummy, and I'm doing small little twists and push, okay? Then I'm going to put my hand right here in the middle, and I'm going to line up the bridge key. Now, not all bridge keys are created equally. All right, so the deal is they have different functions, all right? So this one only has one, you line it up, you're done. This is the bottom one. The top one, we have one, if you're looking at the back, okay, the back of the oboe is facing towards me, not the keys, I'm going to call that the front, but the back of the oboe, where there's very few, very unpopulated in the back of the oboe, okay? So I'm going to face the back towards me, and I'm going to think left and right. The bridge key, when the back is faced toward me, the bridge key that's on the right is the one that absolutely has to be lined up straight. My house tops have to be lined up straight. Sometimes when you line the right up, the left is also, but most times, like on this one, it's not, okay? So the right one is the important one. The reason being, the right bridge key lineup controls the opening and closing of these two little keys. Okay, we have three big keys and these two little ones in between. If our right bridge key is not lined up, those will not close properly. Notes won't speak. You'll get really frustrated. So the one on the left is just, it's a trill key function, which that's way down the line for you, and they just have to touch, okay? So honestly, let me show you real quick. When I have, and notice when I'm doing this, I'm making sure I'm not putting my hands on anywhere that keys are sticking out to the sides, okay? So when I line up the right one from the back of the oboe, the right one, it is lined up. You can see right there. Oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, so it is lined up right here. All right. The one on the left, if I turn that over, oh look, it's not quite as lined up right here. It's okay. They're touching, life is good. Okay. The one on the right is the one you need lined up. And I need, just like at the bell to the middle joint, I need the joint all the way closed together here. All right. So when you are putting the oboe together, things that you're being careful of, you're making sure that you're not wrapping your hands around any keys that stick out to the sides, because we're kind of holding on to the oboe to do this, and we'll squeeze and we'll bend them, and then we're in trouble. So always where it's flat, only places where it's flat, okay? Then we have to make sure we have three bridge keys. The one on the bell has to be lined up. The one on the right, looking at the back of the oboe, has to be lined up. The left one just needs to touch. Both of my joints, this one and this one, need to be all the way flat together. No space between them, just all the way flat together. Okay, when we take the oboe apart, okay, before we take it, I'm going to do a couple of things right here. Okay, so we just have the oboe together, all right? You want to make sure that you are hanging on to the oboe, all right? You don't want to go off and leave it laying anywhere. You don't want to, I wouldn't even ask somebody to hold it. I'm responsible for it, so it's got to be in my care. So when we lay it in our lap, you just need to make sure that you lay it across your lap with the keys up, not down, okay? Keys up, not down, all right? When we are at rest, it's going to be sitting on our right knee, okay? And we're going to have a hand wrapped around the flat part of the middle joint, all right? If we have to walk off and go somewhere, what I would do is I would take the top joint off and lay it across your chair that way, rather than laying it across the chair all put together. You know to be careful, but somebody's gonna walk by and bump it, and then we're talking to mom again. Okay, so be real careful about that. You're gonna find all of this in the book for you to reread through, all right? Just as reminders, and I would suggest you do that. Okay, so one last thing to do before we go on to anything else, care of the oboe. All right, so we are cylindrical, okay? And so as we blow air through, we have condensation that it's science. We're doing a science project. We have condensation that forms on the inside of the oboe, because we're blowing warm air out of our body into the oboe. And it forms condensation, and if we don't clean that wetness out of the inside of the oboe, what happens is it turns into a yucky, ucky science project, and you start getting mold and weird smell and awfulness. So you need to clean the oboe out every time you get through playing. So you're going to have a little swab. This is what the package of the swab will look like, all right? And inside is a silk swab, and let me show you. It will have, all right, it will have a long string like this, okay, that has a little weight, nice small little slender weight on one end of it. Then you will have the silk portion of the swab, and then you'll have this tail on the swab. Okay, so the tail is on the swab because inevitably at some point in time we all make the mistake of trying to pull the swab through the oboe too quickly, and it gets knotted up and gets stuck. So if you're pulling the swab through the oboe and it suddenly feels really hard to pull it through, stop. Don't keep jerking on it. Stop. Let's say when I swab it out, all right, I turn the oboe upside down. It's just because it's easier to feed this through. I turn it upside down and I drop the weighted end through, and I very carefully, almost slow motion, put that down through the oboe. I make sure this section doesn't have any knots in it, or that this section doesn't have any knots. Then I've got the weighted end came out the top of the oboe. I am going to slow motion pull it straight through the oboe to clean out the inside. Now let's say I get this far, and all of a sudden it feels really hard for me to pull the swab through there. I stop, I grab this tail, and I pull it back out. And probably what's going to happen is I discover there's a little knot up in here, or it got doubled up or something. It's just that the bore on the inside right here is so thin, so small, that once this gets knots in it, it'll just get stuck, and then it takes us forever to get the swab back out. So you want to be real careful. So I pull it straight through, and I do this all kind of slow motion. And I actually do it twice just because I'm the queen of hygiene. So I'm going to drop the weighted end right here through the bell again. I am running my fingers along here. I'm making sure there are no knots before I feed it down through the oboe. Same thing on the silk portion. I keep on going. Same thing through the tail. No knots. I'm good. I pull it straight out through the top of the oboe. I have just cleaned out the oboe. You'll be so glad every single time you get through playing. Before you put the oboe in the case, don't put the oboe in the case not swabbed out, because what will happen is a couple of weeks down the line you'll open up your oboe case and this awful smell comes out of the case, and at that point it's really hard to get it all cleaned out again. Now this swab can be washed, okay? I would put it in the sink. I wouldn't put it in your washer, your washing machine. You're liable to have your weight come off and it gets stuck in your washer, and then so I would put it in the sink with some hand soap and suds it up real good and rinse it off real good, and then wring it out and hang it in your shower and let it dry. Okay, so that way, because you're swabbing it out, this might start to smell a little bit also, but you can just wash it. Okay, all right, so we have just swabbed out the oboe. When you take the oboe apart, I'm going to grab my case again. So When you take the oboe part, remember I said we're going to do it in reverse. So we put it together from the bell to the middle and then the middle to the top. Alrighty. So now I am going to wrap my hand, my left hand, around where the joints come together here. I'm going to put it against my tummy again. I'm going to grab the top joint right at the top and I'm going to pull away from me, small little twists and turns as I pull. I'm pulling this way. I'm pulling opposite from each other. So small little twists and turns as I pull. Don't do any big twists and turns because you'll get keys all bound up right here and they'll bend. So twist and pull till it comes out. I'm going to take the top joint. I'm going to make sure, and if I'm not sure exactly where it goes, I'm going to look at the picture I took so I make sure I put it back in the right place. I'm going to put it down in that little groove where it fits very nicely in that little groove. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to put my hand on the bell where, remember this key that we held down with our index finger. I'm going to do the same thing, and I am going to twist the middle joint counterclockwise and the bottom and the bell clockwise. So I'm twisting this way. All right, so I'm twisting that way and pulling. So I twisted the middle joint counterclockwise and the bell clockwise and pulled as I did that. All right, so now I'm going to put, making sure I've got the middle joint in the right place and placed well, and I put the bell in, and notice when it's in the case, always keys are up. Keys are never down in the case. All right, so I have done all of this. I am going to close my case. I'm going to zip up the zippers. I'm going to close the Velcro, and I'm going to wrap my handles together in Velcro, and voila, we have taken care of the oboe. Good job, guys. You have already learned a great deal about the oboe. We've talked about breathing, we've talked about blowing, we've talked about posture. Okay, we've talked about putting the oboe together, and you want to practice all of these things. Again, if you need a reference, the book has all of this restated in it. Okay, so what we're about to talk about is how you actually hold the oboe when you play, what you do with your hands. So I'm going to take my oboe out of the case and put it back together here real quick. If you have not done that yet, would you please join me by putting your oboe together? I'm hoping you're thinking, I need to go bell to middle, middle to top, and I need to line up my bridge keys very carefully. And if it's hard to put together, I need to put cork grease on it. Okay, so remember I have the bell to the middle bridge key, flat goes on the bottom of housetop, or housetop goes on the bottom, on the top of flat, however your brain wants to work with that. Just need your housetops to line up. And I need my joints all together. Then I'm going to reach for my top joint. I'm going to put my keys down on the floor, out of my way. I have to have all my keys facing the same direction. Other than that, we are dead in the water if we don't. So I'm lining up keys in the front. I've got based against me. I'm pushing together. And the bridge key, remember I face the back of the oboe to me. It's always the bridge key on the right side that I've got to make sure lines up, and it is. And I need to make sure I have all my joints straight together. Okay, so if you'll lay your oboe across your lap for just a second with your keys facing up. The other thing I would say real quick about reminding you about putting it together, don't wrap your hand around all of these keys that stick out to the sides. They bend, okay, they're metal, they'll bend, and then we'll be, in a bad way, trying to make sure that we get things fixed. So be careful with that. So I have the oboe laying keys up in my lap with a hand wrapped around the middle of the middle joint, okay? All right, so hand position. So most of y'all, I think, probably in your elementary music class, I think most of you probably played recorders, okay? So if you did that, there are some similarities here between the recorder and the oboe hand positions. All right, so I'm going to bring the oboe up here. Remember, this is at rest. No, this in my lap is at rest. Pardon me. This right here is at the ready. Okay. So we're gonna build our hand position from the top down. So my left hand goes on top, same as it was on recorder. Left hand goes on top, same way. So you have, let me scoot up again. You have 3 big keys on the top. Here is 1, here is 2, and here is 3. Those are the 3 that these 3 fingers are going to go on, okay? Your pinky right here is going to get, eventually, it's going to get this set over here on the left, all right? Eventually your knuckle's going to get this here, all right? So that's the functions of and then we have these in the back that our thumb is eventually going to be in charge of. All right, so here's what we do. We're going to make a soft C with our fingers, and we're gonna turn it to the side, and we're gonna stretch our hands out just a little bit, okay? Because the keys, remember on the oboe, remember we have the 3 big keys and the pinky key, all right? So these 3 are not close together like this. They are a bit further apart like this, all right? Now, if you were a piano player, you don't want piano hands, because you know in the piano, at least my piano, I started piano when I was 5, oboe when I was 11. My piano teacher wanted tips of fingers on on the keyboard. Tips of fingers, tip, 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 tip. Okay, I remember being 5 years old, you have to remember. So, we don't want piano hands like this. We want oboe hands, which are a little more like this. They certainly are not straight, but they are not up on the tippy tips of our fingers, all right? They are just a nice relaxed. Remember the relaxed C that we did? That is the angle that they're going to be on the oboe. Okay, we have to have this little pad of our finger right here to cover the holes in the keys. And you see, hole in a key, hole in a key, hole in a key, and we have to cover those when we press the key down. Okay, so once again, we're going to take our left hand, we're going to make a C, we're going to turn it to the side, we're going to spread our fingers out slightly. I am going to take the oboe and I'm going to fit it into my hand. Okay, so I'm going to put my thumbnail right below the keys in the back of the oboe, this way. I'm not going to let my thumb scoot over because that messes up the front. So my thumbnail is right here underneath the keys. On the front of the oboe, I have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so you can see that the distance between my fingers is a little wider than is like your hand at rest. So that's the reason we do the C and spread our fingers out. Your pinky is just going to, right now, it's going to put itself on the top one of these 5. Okay, it'll eventually be in charge of this whole gang over here, but right now we're going to let it just rest over the top one. Okay, now for the right hand goes on the bottom. So we're going to take our right hand, do the same thing. We're going to make a nice soft C. We're going to turn our C to the side, and we're going to spread our fingers out a bit. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to put it under the thumb rest, and I'm doing thumbnail again. Thumbnails, okay? Don't scoot further in. Thumbnail under the thumb rest. Get my hand out of the way. There we go. Thumbnail under the thumb rest. Let me go from this angle. There you go. And then I'm going to take I have these 3 keys. 1, 2, 3. We're looking for the big key. So thumbnail under the thumb rest. 1, 2, 3. Your fingers definitely feel a little more spread out, okay? And then your right pinky is going to get this, just lay on this top key in this group. All right, so there is our hand position. Remember, once again, you're not tips of fingers, you're not flat fingers, you are lightly curved fingers. That's what you're after, and they're spread out a little bit. Okay, they're spread out a little bit. If you're having trouble getting your fingers to spread out enough to keep the holes covered, put your hands together, fingertips to fingertips, and stretch. Press and stretch just slightly so you can get your fingers to relax in between so they stretch more naturally. Okay, all right, so when we have our hand position, once again, left hand on top, I have my thumb in the back, thumbnail under the keys. I have 1, 2, 3. I'm making sure that my index finger right here, it's bridged over the key right there. It's not laying on it. It can't lay down on the job. It's got to bridge over the key on the top. That's this guy. Let me move my hand. Okay, on the left side of the oboe. So it's going to bridge over that. These are going to be nice and relaxed and curved, and they're going to press down 1, 2, 3, and my pinky's going to press down the top one for right now. So my entire left hand is being engaged in pressing something down. Okay? Now I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to put my thumb under the thumb rest, thumbnail again, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 with my hands covering the holes, and I'm going to take my right pinky and I'm going to press my top key down. So now we have engaged all of our fingers on the right hand and all the fingers on our left hand. So relax them for a second. Now put them back down. Now relax them for a second and put them back down. This just helps you logistically figure out what's going on, because yes, it is similar to the recorder, but it's much bigger and it's heavier and things are different. Okay, so the main thing is left hand on top, right hand on bottom, nice relaxed curve. You also have to watch with your index finger on your right hand. It's got to bridge over these keys as well. This right here, it can't lay down. It's got to bridge over. It's going to curve over. This one curves. Your left index finger curves over here, and your right index finger curves over here so that you're not bumping those guys. All right. Okay, so there is your hand position. When we are talking about how do we sit and play, so the oboe itself comes into our face like this when we play once we get a reed on there. So it's not parallel to our body. It's kind of at a diagonal coming into our body. Now, we do not, let me turn this way for just a second. We do not want the bell out, okay? Nor do we want the bell very close in. We want that nice diagonal. So if you will put the bell of the oboe where it basically is in between your kneecaps, okay? If you'll just basically put it in between your kneecaps, that's a nice angle for it to come into your face. Your arms are not out, they're not squeezed in either, they're just nice and relaxed, and you just bring the oboe right up to your face, okay? Just bring it, and we'll have a reed in there in a bit. So you just bring it up to your face. So as you get used to it, keep all your hands nice and covering on the keys, pressing them down, and just get used to the angle of the oboe. The oboe is not really heavy, okay, but it is heavier than things you've been doing with your hands in this fashion, especially if you played recorder, because the recorder is so very light. Oboe is definitely heavier than the recorder. So it may take you just a little bit to get used to the weight of the oboe that is sitting on your thumb here, your right thumb. We also can get little squishies and put them over there. If this is making your thumb sore, we can get little they're little pencil gripper squishies, and we can cut them and put it over your thumb rest for you to help cushion that right there if that's making your thumb a little bit sore. All right, so I do not mind if you put the bell on your knee and look down to make sure, okay, I have all my holes covered, I have all the right keys, my pinkies are in the right place. But after that, don't ever play with the bell rested on your knee, okay? We don't want to do that. We can rest it on our knee when it's at the ready. We can rest it on the knee to check our hands out, rest it on your leg to check hands out. But once you start getting ready to play, it needs to come off of your leg, and make sure that the bell is free between your knees. Do be careful once we get our reed in the oboe. Once again, you don't want to look down, because look what you have to do. And then remember, we talked about bell going out. You also don't want to look up, because then your bell's going to come in. So really let this diagonal where the bell falls at your knees, let that dictate your head angle, because that will help you quite a bit. All right, so there you have hand position. Okay, so I'd like to show you something real quick before we go into another subject. If you'll notice, I laid the oboe back here. All right, if I am laying it on a table, now remember, I am not laying it across a chair. All right, I'm taking the top joint off and laying both joints across the chair where the chair protects it, if I am doing that. But if I'm laying it put together somewhere, I just want to make sure that the keys are up, not down. Okay, the keys are basically up, and I want to lean it towards this side, the right side of the oboe, where there are 3 keys, not the side of the left side of the oboe where there are 5 keys. So I want to lean it this way. These keys are just up and downy keys. They just go up and down. These keys over here teeter-totter back and forth, all right, and they bend easier. So if I'm laying it down all put together, I'm laying it down very carefully because I don't want my mom coming after me. And so I'm laying it down very carefully, and I'm laying it down with the keys up and leaning towards the side where there are the 3 pinky keys, not the 5. Okay, so now we're going to go into a different subject matter here. We're going to talk about reeds, okay? So we've talked about breathing and blowing and how to sit and how to do our hand position, how to put the oboe together, how to take it apart, how to swab it out, very important. Yucky science project if you don't. So we have talked about all those things. So now we're coming to how we actually produce what is characteristically the oboe sound. And what makes that happen is when we put our air, our nice powerful air that we have, through a reed. We are called a double reed because we have 2 reeds, 2 pieces of cane that are wrapped together. A single reed is something like a saxophone, your friends who are playing saxophone, or they're playing clarinet, something to that effect. They have a single reed that is a single surface, so they actually have a top and a bottom, okay? We are 2 reeds wrapped together that have this kind of opening. So you can see when you're doing that, we have an outside and we have an inside, okay? So double reed because we have 2 reeds wrapped together. So your oboe reed is going to come in a case that looks something to this effect, or it could be a little plastic vial, a little plastic tube, okay, with a cap on it. These are only for transport purposes as far as mailing them, okay? You don't want to keep them in this kind of case. It's not as protective, and you do not want to keep them definitely in the little plastic vials, and don't use the plastic vial as like a soaker cup, please. So we're going to talk about all that in a second. So let's talk about reed cases for just a second. Let me get mine, and then I'm going to show you all sorts of varieties of things. This is my reed case, and you'll notice that my reed case has my name on it. Can you see that? Right here. It's got my name on it, even though you can't see that very well. A very good friend made that lovely little oboe reed for me. My case is a more expensive case. It is a wooden case. It has a spring type opening, and on the inside of my case, ooh look, lots of reeds. So on the inside of my case, let me scoot up so you can see, I have little spring prong things like this that fit inside the oboe reed to hold it up. I also have this little ribbon area. It's a little ribbon that has a little groove in it so mine are held on here by a spring, and they have a little groove in this ribbon. I'm just OCD, overly protective. So that is my case. There are cases like this. This is a little plastic case. All right, little plastic case. It has just pegs, little plastic pegs, no ribbon. And I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of this case because it doesn't have, when you close it, it doesn't have air holes to let the reeds breathe and dry out, and they'll just mold if they don't. This is not my favorite case, but you could make this work. You just have to be real careful with getting your reeds to dry out. Okay, let me go to a different case. I do like this case. This case, actually, it's a 3-reed case also, and it's got ribbon, no pegs, okay, ribbon and no pegs. And it's got a snap closure, and look, it has holes that will let your reeds breathe on both ends, okay? We soak the reed, and the cane of the reed gets wet so it can vibrate when we play on it. And then it has to dry out in between every time. And if there are not air holes, like I said, for these to be able to breathe, you can see the little hole right here. they'll mold and mildew, and then that's really yucky. So, all right, so there's that case. You also have, this is a wooden case, but mine held 12 reeds and this holds 6. This is a great case as well. It is also a wooden case, and it has a magnetic closure. And look, we have air holes so that our reeds can breathe and dry out. So I would get a separate reed case for at least 3 reeds, because you want to have 3 reeds at all time just to be on the safe side. So you do want a reed case that will hold all those, and not just the little separate tubes and little coffin type cases like this guy. They're just not as protective of the reed, and the reed is very fragile. Okay, and those are at various and sundry prices, and your director can help you with figuring that all out and what case might be the best case for you. But like I said, at least a 3 reed case I think is your best bet. One that holds the reeds securely in there, whether it's pegs or whether it is the ribbon, and it needs air holes so that your reeds can dry out. Okay, so there is how to store them. Various and sundry ways to do that. So let's talk about the reed itself. So I am going to very carefully open this little case, and I'm going to pull this reed out of here. All right, so I'm going to lay that there for just a second, and I'm going to grab me one of these guys real quick. Okay, so let's talk about the reed itself. Scoot myself over here. Welcome to one oboe reed. All right, so the reed itself has different parts to it. You can see this part down here, this part is cork, and it is round. It will fit into the top of the oboe. So this is the cork portion. It's called a tube or a staple or various and sundry things. It's just the cork portion. You have string. There's metal inside here. It's cork covered metal, and this is a little metal top, and we wrap the cane on there, and this is the string portion. It has been waterproofed, so if it happens to get wet, it's okay, but you do not need to soak anything from the string down. You only need to soak from the bottom of the cane up to the top. That's what you need to soak. Now you can see at the angle I'm holding this, as you look at it, you can see there's a lightness up here at the top that's kind of transparent. That's called the tip. And then right behind that, this area, so we got the tip right here. Right behind that we have the heart, and behind that we have the back. So we have tip, heart, and back. We also have a spine, just like you and I have a spine. There's a spine that runs all the way. You can see it a little shadowy in the tip there. A little dark line that runs all the way up and down the length of the reed. Okay, so in your test that your band director is going to give you on what are the reed parts, there you have them. You have a tip, you have a heart, you have a back, you have a spine, you have the string, and you have the cork. Okay, those are all of our parts of the reed. Okay, now the cork and the string, you want to try to handle the reed mostly by the cork. Okay, we waterproof the string and we tie really tight when we tie them. But if you're handling by the string and twisting, you could eventually, over a long period of time, you could loosen the string. And then when you do that, the top of your reed comes off and we're asking mom for another reed. Pardon me. Okay, so we are holding it mostly by the cork. We are being really overly dramatically protective of the cane part of the reed. I can't even stress that enough. This will crack and break, and then you are dead in the water. You won't be able to play. So be very careful on this. You never really are going to handle it by the cane portion. We may do a little bit of different things that we can talk about along the way, but you're not really ever, especially when you're putting it in the oboe, you're never going to handle it by the cane portion of the reed up here, and really not even by the string. You're going to be handling it by the cork. All right, so if you look at the tip, let me see if I can do this here, of this, you'll see that opening that I was talking about. You see it? Nice and kind of diamond oval, little bit shaped opening there in the tip of the reed. Okay, so that is where we get our double reed name from. We have the two pieces of cane that are tied together, and the opening looks kind of, you just saw it, it looks kind of like a diamond like that. All right, so we never want to play on a reed dry. Okay, so we start trying to put our moist, warm air from our body through a reed, and if the reed is not soaked, it'll just crack. That's the name of that, and that's the end of that. So let me lay this reed down real carefully, and let's talk about how to soak your reed. Okay, let's reference back to the fact that, remember I said your friends who play clarinet and saxophone play on single reeds, all right? Meaning there's a single piece of cane, we got a top and a bottom, we got two sides, that's it. So they're going to be probably putting that cane, that reed in their mouth to soak it. But the deal is, when they do that, they get the entire surface of the reed, okay? So they're soaking the top and the bottom. If we try to soak this in our mouth, let's say if this is my mouth, if I put this in my mouth to soak it with the saliva in my mouth, what am I soaking? I am only soaking the outside, all right? The inside's not getting any moisture, okay? So I cannot put it in my mouth to soak it at all, because it needs to soak equally from the inside to the outside and the outside to the inside. You can't soak one area, just the outside, and I don't even know how you would soak just the inside. But anyway, so you have to soak inside and outside of the reed, and it has to be soaked equally, and it needs to be soaked a certain way. So let's come back over here and let's talk about soaking. There are several different containers really that you can use. This is kind of a fancy schmancy little soaker cup. It's a little Tupperware looking cup. All right, it has this little metal thing, and it's kind of cool because this little metal thing, you can see with that opening right here, your music stand fits in like this. So you can put this on your music stand and you'll have your water right there in front of you. Okay, so there is that. You also have a little cap that when you're storing it, after you've soaked your reed, you can put the little cap on that way. So this is kind of a cool little soaker device that you can have. I have to admit, I am somewhat old school. Let us remember how long I've been playing the oboe. I use a medicine bottle. It's not going to have the cool little clip onto your stand, but it will certainly soak your reed. All right, so it's just one of the childproof tops, so that my water won't leak out if it's in my bag. All right, so here's the deal about soaking your reed. Remember, like we said, we wanted your reed to dry out every time in between, and then what you'll do is you'll soak it, you will play, you will put it away, it will dry out completely so it will not mold, mildew, okay? Then the next day you do the process all over again. So every time you play, you're going to soak your reed, you're going to put it away. It should totally dry out. Don't leave your reed in the water overnight. That's why you want a reed case that has air holes to let it dry out. So when you start again tomorrow, you soak it and you start your process all over again. Okay, so remember that I need to soak only the cane portion of the reed. Just the cane portion of the reed. So when I put water in here, I only need enough water to get the cane soaked. If I happen to get a little bit of the string wet as well, it's not going to hurt anything, but you certainly do not need to soak any of the string for any reason. Okay, so let's talk about the water itself. Does the water make a difference? Does the temperature of the water make a difference? Absolutely it does. So when you are getting water, if you went out to the water fountain in the hall and you got cold, ice cold water, and you put your reed in there to soak, the reed reacts the very same way that your skin does, because the reed has pores just like your skin. So if I took cold water and splashed it on my face, all the pores on my face would tighten up really tight and close. And it would make it really hard for the water to penetrate and get through to clean my skin. Okay, same story. All right. If you take this cane portion and you shock it by putting it in cold water, all these pores that are in the wood of the cane are going to slam shut, and it's going to almost refuse to soak because the cold water, it doesn't want to let it through. Okay. So even if you're putting it in the water, it's still going to slam shut. It's going to feel like it never quite soaks all the way. So on the other side of the spectrum with water temperature, if I get really hot water and I throw it on my skin, it's kind of like the sauna or a facial or some sort of spa, something where all my pores open wide open so they can clean my skin out. Well, the same thing happens on the reed. The pores will open way up and it will just soak up a ton of water real fast, and then it will feel like a brick. It'll just get hard because it's got too much water soaked up into it. So we want to stay away from extreme water temperatures. So what you're after is room temperature to just a little bit warm water. And I can't say this enough, change your water every single day. Otherwise, ick, ooh, yuck. All right. At the beginning of class, get fresh water. At the end of class, go dump your water out and start again the next day. And then occasionally clean out your bottle. Okay. You just don't want to, especially in times of that we're having to be real careful with hand washing and stuff. Make sure hygiene's a big deal. Okay, so I just got fresh water before we started this video. So my water is clean fresh water. So, and it is room temperature at this point. Okay, so I'm going to open, and I'm going to very carefully, I'm holding by the cork right here, and I'm going to very carefully put this down into the water. All right, notice I didn't plunk it or drop it down in the water because I need to protect the cane of the reed. It's high maintenance, our reeds are. So make sure you can see that it's sitting in the water, soaking. A little bit of my string is getting wet. It's not going to hurt a thing. I don't need to get the string wet, but it's not going to hurt anything. All right, so I don't need a whole bunch of time to soak my reed. So I would say let your reed sit in the water about a minute. Okay, let it sit in the water about a minute. After it has set in the water for about a minute, you are going to take it out carefully. And I'm going to just real carefully bounce it, and some excess water is going to come out because when I put it in the water, water went up on the inside of the reed as well as around the outside. So I'm going to bounce it just a little. I'm going to lay it across my cap like this. Okay, just laying it, I'm going to do this across my cap like this and let it sit there. So I would say about a minute in the water, take it out, let it sit across your cap. It's so easy because the cane portion of an oboe reed is so small, okay, that it's real easy to put it in the water and you let it sit there and it over soaks. Even if it's just room temperature water, even if it's that, it will over soak. And then it just feels like a brick once they're over soaked, and they have to dry out completely and we have to start over again. It's a pain to deal with all that. So just be careful about not over soaking. If it doesn't feel soaked enough when you start to play, you can always put it back in the water and re-soak it. But if it's too soaked, you can't take water out of it. It has to do that on its own time frame. Okay, so we have just talked about the reed itself, the fact that you need a safe place to store them, as in a certain kind of reed case specifically designated for that purpose with air vents in the case so that it can dry out. We have talked about the parts of the reed, and just in case we're testing each other, remember we have a tip, we have a heart, we have a back, we have a spine. That all happens in the cane portion. Then we have string, and then we have cork tube down at the bottom. So we have just talked through the reed itself and the way it is structured, the way it is made. And we've talked about how you soak it and how long you soak it. And please clean water every day. All right. So we have talked about the reed. We've talked about soaking the reed and care of the reed. So now we're going to actually talk about how it is we do this with our face and how we produce sound on the oboe. So every single instrument has a certain set of rules with how they set up their face in order to play their instrument. Okay, so you have a clarinet embouchure, you have a bassoon embouchure, you have a trumpet embouchure, and so on. We have an oboe embouchure. Embouchure simply means how you set up your mouth to play. All right, so we're going to talk about that for a moment. So we want to make sure, remember we talked about in our last video that we always want to play on a reed that is soaked. So I'm putting my reed in the water. I just want a minute, okay, of that to soak. And mine was actually already a little bit wet, so I'm actually going to take it out of the water. And I'm going to shake, 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 shake some water out. Then, remember, I'm holding it by the tube. I'm not handling it up here. I'm holding it by the tube, and I'm going to blow through the tube away from me, but not on my neighbor. Get all the rest of the water out. I'm just blowing down through the tube, okay? Then I can take it, and I can, if this is my pants leg, I can lightly tap it on my pant leg, lightly, 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 to get any extra moisture off of that. Or I can do that, okay? All right, so now let's talk about how do we set up our face to make this all happen. All right, our embouchure is set, but it's also flexible. So we have both aspects to ours. Some instruments are, I don't know that anybody's more flexible than we are, but some are much more set than we are. So we have to have, remember, we don't have a mouthpiece that we're putting a reed on like a clarinet or saxophone, nor do we have just a metal mouthpiece like all your brass friends have on their instrument. So we are basically making our mouthpiece with our embouchure setup and the reed. So we have a whole different set of circumstances from most people. Now you're going to see me doing this with my fingers on the reed. I'm just going to show you things so I can talk at the same time. You're not really going to ever have your hands on the upper portion of the reed doing anything. Okay, so remember we have a tip, and we have a heart, and we have a back. So if this is my mouth right here, and my thumb is my bottom lip, and my index finger is my top lip, okay? So here I am. I am going to take the heart of one of the sides of the reed, so it fits in to my mouth flat like this, not sideways like this, okay, but flat like this. So I'm going to put one of the flat sides of the heart on my bottom lip, and I'm going to place my top lip closed, and I'm going to, before I close, I'm going to roll in enough lip to cover my teeth. So did you see what I did? I put the heart, I got my bottom lip here, and I put the heart. Notice I didn't put the tip, nor did I put the back. I put the heart on my bottom lip, and I start to close my mouth, and I roll in just enough lip to cover my teeth, and I get my embouchure this way. Then I take these corners and I push them forward, ooh, but I have to keep my lip rolled in. So rules of embouchure rules for oboe: you're going to center the heart on your bottom lip, and we stay anchored on the bottom lip. Okay, when we breathe, it does this. So it stays anchored on our bottom lip. All right, so I'm going to anchor the heart on my bottom lip. I'm going to roll just enough lip over my teeth, top and bottom, to cover my teeth. Then I'm going to push my corners forward, but keep my lip rolled in. Okay, did you see what I did? I'm going to roll in and push my corners forward. Okay, I'm doing that because it's a little easier to see it on my face without the reed, and I'm going to show you with the reed in a minute. So I'm rolling in. I'm going to push my corners forward. So I'm setting the whole thing up to the front of my face. All right. If I do that with the reed, where you can see, I anchor the heart in my bottom lip. I'm going to roll lip in to cover my teeth. I'm going to push my corners forward. Redo it again. You're going to do this a bazillion times until your face figures it out. Heart on the bottom lip, not the tip, not the back, heart on my bottom lip, roll lip in, push corners forward. Okay, that's exactly what will happen. If I do this a little bit from this angle, remember, it doesn't come in like this or like this. It comes in diagonally like this. Okay, so I'm going to do the same procedure from this way so you can see. I'm going to anchor the heart on my bottom lip. I'm going to roll my lip in to cover teeth and then push my corners forward. Okay, and literally you should feel all those things happen. You should feel the reed anchor on your bottom lip. You should feel your lip roll in, cover teeth. You should feel your corners, but they have to push forward. You don't want to play smiley face, corners back. Okay, what that will do is it'll take the opening of the reed and it'll go zook and it'll shut it, and then you can blow till your eyeballs pop out and nothing will happen because you've clamped the opening shut. It's got to stay nice and round. So if this is my mouth again, notice that I anchored and I roll and then I push my corners forward, all right? But I am not biting. I'm not putting pressure up and down, never up and down pressure. We're gonna roll and do different things, but we're never gonna do up and down pressure, okay? So steps, step 1, anchor the heart in your bottom lip. Step 2, roll lip in to cover your teeth. Step 3, push your corners forward. Remember, you're always going to push your corners forward last. All right. Now, when we add sound to that, we add air because air produces sound. Okay. All right. So if you remember, let me get myself situated here. We took air in down to our core, down where our tummy is. All right. Not up here. We don't want this air. We can't do anything with that air. Okay, so make sure your shoulders are not getting in the action. Your stomach should feel kind of like an inner tube, like it expands outward. Okay, so we're taking air in, and then we're going to hiss really hard. So if we put those 5 steps together, we're going to, the 3 steps of our embouchure setting and the 2 steps of air in and push air out, here's what happens. So I'm going to anchor. I'm going to get ready to roll, but I'm going to take my air in. And then I'm going to hiss. So I did 5 things to make a sound, okay? So I always anchor, heart in my bottom lip, then take my breath in, then set the rest of my embouchure, the other 2 steps, and then push my air, press my air out. Remember that air dial we talked about back in another video. Dial your air up to at least an 8 on your pressure valve, okay? All right, so here we go again. Step 1 is always anchor the heart in your bottom lip, okay? And remember, it's on a flat side. It's not on a profile side, but a flat side. You're gonna anchor. You're gonna take your air in with your core. Then I'm going to finish out my embouchure with rolling, corners forward, and then I'm going to blow. Okay? Try not to let any air in your cheeks. You don't want to puff out. You're going to feel a whole bunch of like pressure in your neck, actually, believe it or not. It's where you're going to feel as the air passes through, because the reed is very, I'm going to call it resistant. It's really resistance, meaning control. The reed is very controlled. And you'll feel that pressure that you're starting to put through the reed. You'll feel it kind of push back at you. So push back, okay? Push back with your pressure. Don't bite, okay? So remember, we got 5 steps going on here. Anchor, take a breath, roll in, push corners forward, blow. Ready? All right, so those are the steps for setting your embouchure and adding that to your air to produce a sound. You're going to get a funky little reed sound. That's fine. It doesn't have to be exactly my pitch, but just really fast air, kind of like you're singing a high note, he, okay? So we're going to do some things later with some reed exercises that we'll incorporate it into some other videos, but that is your basic setup for your embouchure and for your air. Now, the last thing I want to add to this is tonguing, all right? So the deal is, here we have in my reed, if this is my tongue this time, all right? So our tongue is not built this way. So we cannot tongue tip on tip like this because we're just not physically built that way, okay? So, but we do need to get the tip of our tongue back to the tip of the reed. So if our tongue is in our mouth like this, it kind of hangs around, scooped down in the bottom of our mouth if we're not using our tongue for anything. So it's going to curl a little bit back, and the tip of your tongue is going to touch the tip of the reed. And then when you add pressure and blow and pull your tongue away, you'll get a T sound. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is set your embouchure, and then all I want you to do is touch the tip of the reed with the tip of your tongue. It's going to curl back a bit. So you're going to do, and you're going to have the tip of your reed on the tip of your tongue. So anchor here, set your embouchure, roll in, push your corners forward, and just touch the tip of the reed with the tip of your tongue. So touch the reed, touch the tip of the reed, pull your tongue back. Touch the tip of the reed, pull your tongue back. And we're not putting any air through here yet. We're just letting your tongue figure out where the tip of the reed is. All right. Then when I add all that process together, okay, what I'm doing is I set my embouchure, I anchor my reed, I take my breath, I set my embouchure, I put the tip of my tongue on the tip of the reed. When I add air pressure, I can blow and then pull my tongue back, and it will release the sound, okay? So I can blow with the reed, with my tip of my tongue on the reed, and no sound will come out. Then when I pull my tongue back, I get that T sound. So you hear this? I have it anchored. Okay, so once again, I'm adding a bunch of steps together. So I am anchoring the heart on my bottom lip. I'm taking my breath. I'm rolling lip in. I'm pushing corners forward. I'm putting the tip of the tongue on the tip of my tongue on the tip of the reed. I'm starting my air pressure, and then I'm pulling my tongue back, and my air continues the sound, and the sound spins out of the reed. Okay. All right, so that is all the production aspects of the oboe sound until we get the reed into the oboe. And I am going to show you that real quick before we stop, just so we put the reed in the oboe. We won't actually play any notes right now because that's another unit. But when you are putting the reed into the oboe, once again, remember we're holding it by the cork, all right? If you look into the top of your oboe, look down there, and what you see is a ledge with a smaller hole in the middle of it. So we want, if this is the ledge right here, I want the reed to go down, and that hole in there will match up to this hole in the bottom of the tube. I want this to sit right down on the ledge. I don't want any space in between the ledge and the bottom of my reed. Okay, so if this is hard to put in, you can put your cork grease again around the bottom. Let me do this so you can see. This part of it's not going to go in. This upper part doesn't go in. Only about this much of the tube actually goes into the oboe, and you have about that much extending out of the top of the oboe. So you just need to put cork grease around the bottom half of your tube. Okay. Then here's what I'm going to do. So I have the oboe here. I'm going to put the reed into the reed. It's called the reed well. I'm going to put the reed into the reed well just a tiny bit. And I'm going to eyeball, and with these keys here in the back, I'm going to line up a flat side of the reed with the keys that are in the back of the oboe. After I have that lined up, I'm going to put both of my, I have it on the chair between my legs, the bell, and I'm going to put both hands, and I'm going to push straight down. And you'll feel it when it hits the ledge and you can't go any further. You'll feel it. If it's hard to get in and you see a bunch of cork out the top, don't forget, because I can't have it looking like that. That's too far out. Okay, so I have to have it pushed all the way in. So when you get the reed into the bell, there's what you're going to look like. All right, you're going to have a little bit out of the top. We turn this around to the back. You have flat. All right, so that's what you're going to look like. All right, so we go back and we start putting all of our little parts together. We would set our embouchure. Remember, the bell is at between our knees. We would put the heart on our bottom lip. We would take our breath, set our embouchure, push our corners forward, and we would be ready to make a sound. When you take the reed out of the oboe, make sure that you're using your hand on the cork, not anywhere else, okay? Get a nice grip, and almost like you're unscrewing it a little bit. I'm just unscrewing. I'm going clockwise with the tube until I get my reed out. Then I would put it safely away in my reed case. I would swab my oboe out, and I would put my oboe away, ready to start the next day. All right, so welcome to the world of oboe. So you are about ready to start on Unit 1 in the book, which is going to actually have you playing notes, which is terribly exciting because it won't take you long to get into this stuff. All these preliminaries are what we think of as fundamentals. They never go away. They never get old. You'll be doing them forever. You will be 7 years down the line and a senior in high school doing these same fundamentals. So let me talk for just a second in closure. Everything, again, as a reminder, that we have talked about is in the preliminaries, and really the first 14 pages of the preliminaries. Starting with the second half of the page 14 and on through page 21, there's different things, different aspects of playing that are more universal, musically speaking. They're talking about counting. They're talking about note values and actually reading music on the staff and identifying notes and that sort of thing. But that is the rest of the unit, preliminaries up through half of 14 up through 21. Your band director is going to take you through all of that. So I'm going to leave them to that. I just want to let you know there is a review of that in there. And then after you finish page 21 in your book, and once again, we have note values, we have note names, we have reading notes on the staff, all that fun stuff. Then you actually get into Unit 1. And what Unit 1 does is start with your left-hand notes and gets you playing on the oboe. So please make sure, as you are getting started into this, if you have any questions at all, be sure and reference back to your book or back to these videos, or talk to your band director so you don't inadvertently learn anything not quite right, because we all know once you learn something wrong, it's ridiculously hard to change it. So just be real fundamentally correct with everything that you do. You're off to a great start. Good luck in your year, and we are going to be videoing units as well, so I will see you again soon, hopefully, for Unit 1. And I wish you the best of luck as you step off onto this path. So everybody take care.